Hello, this is Hobbit of hobbitandnobbin.com. This is my second video, and I'm really excited about this video because one of the things that I wanted to do on our blog is provide some really good product reviews of things that we've bought for our camping trips and things that we've used, either tools, supplies, gear, stuff like that. And in this video, I want to talk about an inflatable boat that I bought, and it's awesome. I can't say enough good stuff about it. But before I get into it, I'm sure that some people will be critical of the length of the videos that I've made thus far, or at least the one that I've made. And so a word on that. One of the main reasons why I decided to start making videos in the first place was that I would find, in looking for information, trying to fix my camper, or just in general things that I do around the house, what I found was videos usually fell in three categories. One, they weren't informative at all and it was a waste of time. Two, they were informative but they lacked sufficient detail where I could even attempt what it is that I watched. Or three, the videos were informative, I could follow them, but the suggested method or whatnot was so overly complicated that I just thought, this is ridiculous. Why in the world would they do that? They could have just done this. And that led me to just develop my own solutions in those circumstances. So the reason why my videos may be longer is because I don't want somebody to watch one of these videos and think, well, I wonder what they did here, or why did he do that? I'd rather just try to lay it all out there, and if you want to watch it, great. If you don't, you don't have to. So in this video, what I want to talk about is the Mariner, or the Intex Mariner 4 inflatable boat. And before I kind of walk you through that and the modifications that I made to it, just a few basics. One, when I purchased the boat, I think it cost me maybe $230 on Amazon. The other thing is that this boat is pretty big, and once it's inflated, the outer dimensions are approximately 12 feet long, and it's probably, I don't know, 4.5 feet wide. It's a pretty big boat. So just to give you some background, my brother and I, Nobbin, we're going on a camping trip, and we were going to do a bunch of fishing, and we don't have a boat, and we knew that going out on the water would be the best way to catch fish. And so I decided on a whim, as I often do, hey, I'm gonna get this boat. And then in looking at online at resources and things that related to the Mariner 4, I found all kinds of modifications that people had done to these boats that were just amazing, and some overly complicated and too complex, which some may criticize what I did as being the same category, but and some that looked really podunk and, you know, lackluster. I'll just say that. One of the things that I care about, and this is a theme throughout any video that you watch, is I tend to care about how things look. Now, only to an extent. If it's going to cost me a lot of money to achieve a certain look, then I don't care as much. But if I can achieve a certain look and do so cost effectively, then that's my preference. And I think that kind of played itself out with this boat. So what I'll do is, this is going to be, I guess, a two-part video. The first is I just want to kind of show you what I did to the boat, talk about pros and cons, and what I enjoyed about it. And then the second video, which is probably the one I'm most excited about, is I'm going to walk you through a trailer that I built for this thing to get it from the campsite to the water, and it worked perfectly. So first I'll walk you through the boat. Second, I'll do a separate video and show you the trailer, and I'll put it together and tell you exactly how I did it. So now I'll just walk you through the boat and show you the modifications that I made. All right, so here's the boat. It's not inflated, and I don't intend to inflate it. If you want me to see, or if you want to see me inflate it and put it all together and do sort of a time-lapse video, then leave me a comment, let me know, and I'll make another video, and so you can get an idea of, I guess, the amount of time that it might require to get this thing assembled. But in any event, this is the boat, and as you can see, it's fairly large. It's basically the length of my camper entirely. There are 4 separate sections to inflate. You can see this is the 4th one, and it has these Boston valves. And I was unfamiliar with Boston valves until I owned this thing, and they're amazing. But it's really easy to inflate. It inflates, I mean, unbelievably fast, much faster than you might anticipate. And I'll just show you quickly what I use to inflate it. I use this little tiny handheld pump, and this thing inflates the boat in, I would estimate, less than a minute if I were trying to do it quickly. But it takes almost nothing to inflate. The boat came with a hand pump, but I haven't used it. I suspect that it would be just as effective, but I just chose to use this electric pump because of the time and effort required. So this is the actual boat. It came with some accessories. It came with 2 oars. The oars are okay quality, but I didn't really intend to use them that much. So the other thing I would note is I purchased a transom mount that's made by Intex specifically for the purpose of using a trolling motor. And you can get this at Walmart or on Amazon. It's about $20. It's made specifically for this. And when you inflate the boat, these go into these holes here, and then these come up through here. You put these through the holes, and then you screw these on, and it's really, really secure. I had no problems with it whatsoever. It's pretty awesome. So that's that. I used a Minn Kota 30-pound thrust, a trolling motor. You're not going to break any land records with this thing, or water records, I suppose. But it absolutely gets the job done. My brother and I spent all day out on the water, multiple days. As long as your battery's charged, this thing's going to do the job. We went all over the lake. Great product, great company. This is going to be about, you're probably going to spend about $100 on this. You can get it at Academy, Amazon, Walmart. They're all about exactly the same price. So it really doesn't matter where you get it from, just if you have a preference. All right, so the next thing that I would just say is this boat comes with a floor. I haven't used it with the floor that it came with, so I can't comment on that. It's basically, excuse me, fabric with some plastic slats that go in. I presume that it would be fairly stable, but I just wanted to make sure that we had something really solid. We could move around and not have to worry about any instability. So what I did is, you can find a bunch of stuff online about this, and you know, there's no perfect way to do it, but I'll just tell you what I did. So the first thing I did was I used this anti-fatigue mat that you can buy at Harbor Freight. It's like $8 for 17 square feet. And I use this stuff all over. I mean, you can tell here, I use it all over my house for all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to have a base layer that I put under the floor that would really protect the material from, you know, being pierced by anything. And so I made a template, and I cut 2 sections. And so I put that in first. And just as an aside, I put this all in the back of my truck, and having this has the unintended, purpose of I can lay this down in the bed of the truck, and it kind of serves to keep things padded and from getting bumped and scratched and things like that. So there's that for you. The other thing is I made these 2 sections of the floor out of inch thick plywood. I just went to the Lowe's, picked up some plywood. You're gonna need 2 pieces because you can't, the boat is long enough where it's not gonna, one 8-foot piece isn't gonna be long enough. So you're gonna need 2 pieces. But I cut 2 pieces, and I used the floor that came with the boat as a template, and I just traced it onto the plywood, and I cut it as best I could. Now, one thing I would note is one of the things you want to be concerned about is when you put this floor into the boat, one of the things that you really need to be concerned with is the seams. And you don't want to put too much stress or unnecessary pressure on these seams, and you don't want to rub here on the boat. So what I did is when I cut these pieces for the floor, I made sure to leave about an inch or so around the edges, just to reduce the amount of friction and stuff from the boat. So on one side, you'll notice it's just one solid sheet, no holes or anything. But the boat has a keel, an inflatable keel that maintains sort of the V shape of the hull of the boat, and that's inflatable, and you can see the valve right there. So on the other piece, let me just move this out of the way real quick. On the other section of flooring, you'll see here where you have to make sure to cut yourself a hole so that you can get to the valve and inflate that when you put everything together. These fit perfectly right inside the boat, and the seam I wanted in the middle of the boat. And so just to give you an idea, my brother and I weigh about 200, a little over 200 apiece. And so I wanted to make sure that the weight in the boat was evenly distributed. So I wanted the seam in the middle. And then the issue was, all right, so I need to have seating for both of us. So the first thing I did was I wanted to think about, and you need to think about how you're going to use the boat, how long you're going to use it, how many people are going to be in the boat, etc., before you kind of, venture out and start doing this. But this boat is supposed to fit 4 people. My one, sort of complaint, if you want to call it that, about this boat is it's definitely not a 4-person boat. I think that myself and my wife and my 3 little kids could fit in this boat. It would make me a little nervous with them moving around and, fishing gear and stuff. But it would be possible. You could certainly put 3 adults in this boat with no problem. And you could fish and have plenty of room. But if you put 3, it's going to start to get a little tight. 2 can fish in this boat all day long and be, have tons of gear and be totally comfortable. So I would say it's supposed to be a 4-person boat, but that's not entirely true. So it comes with some inflatable benches, and I've got them over there in my garage, but I knew that I didn't want to use those. So what I did was I came up with 2 different solutions. The first was I knew that I needed a battery for my trolling motor, and I also wanted to have another battery in the boat, a smaller one, in the event we needed to use a 12-volt air pump out in the middle of the lake if the air started to go out on us, or just for charging cell phones. We had a Bluetooth speaker that we used when we were fishing, and so I just wanted to have another power source. So thinking about, again, distributing the weight evenly, my solution was to do the following. So at the bow of the boat, what I did was I built this box, and let me just move the trolling motor here. I built this box, and I roughly used the shape of the boat to help me do that. And you can see here, I made it the shape of the boat. And I bought two of these seats. And I think these were like 20, maybe 25 bucks at Walmart. And they have a swivel mount, and it's hard to move, but they swivel around like this and folds up. Worked perfect. And I just used some of this just basic rope. I think it says like 3/8. And I just cut some holes in the side and tied some knots off, and then give myself some handles so I can move this stuff around, load it in my truck and whatnot. I put a piano hinge because I had a long piano hinge for a window seat that I built a long time ago. And I just had that in my garage, so I just cut one down to size with a hacksaw, and that worked perfect. The cup holder I got at Academy. I think it was like $5 or $6, maybe. That might be too much. But I got this because there, as you can see, there's spots for like pliers and lures and stuff like that. And the cup holder is big enough where we could use like our Yeti cup if we're out on the water. So that's the reason I went with that. It worked perfect, easy to mount, just 2 screws, no big deal. I built this on a hinge, and this housed the, it doesn't look like it, but this is a smaller battery. And I also use this as the place to put my anchor. And this worked perfect. It gave us some storage to put some stuff. And it allowed me to evenly distribute the weight in the front of the boat, and still allowed my brother to be able to swivel around if he needed to. Worked perfect. So as for the main troller motor battery, I built this box to put in the middle of the boat, right on the seam of the floor. And I just built this out of plywood and, some stuff I had laying around. I got another cup holder, and then I got this other little holder for like cell phones and other stuff, so that it could face me in the back of the boat. And then I put another hinge on the back of this boat, or back of this box, and so that I could open and close this pretty easily. And I put a huge battery in here for the trolley motor, and it worked perfectly. The other thing I would note about this, sorry, I'm all over the place here. Couple things. One is, if you're hooking up a trolling motor, you've got to have a 50 amp breaker between the battery and the trolling motor, just in case you get hung up in some weeds or something. You don't want to blow the motor up. So this is an automatic breaker. I got this on eTrailer. I think it was like, I don't know, maybe $20 or something. I don't remember, but it's worth it, because if you don't have it, you can end up burning up your trolling motor, and then you're out $100. So I thought it was worth it. I got the battery box at Walmart. I think it was like maybe $7. It was not expensive whatsoever. This worked perfectly. The other thing is I knew we would have several poles, and so what I wanted to do is put some rod holders. Now, this is an inflatable boat, so one of the things to consider is you don't have something to mount to unless you use some glue-on accessories, which you can certainly find. They're on Amazon. The problem with that is that there's all kinds of adhesion issues. Like, you have to use exactly the right kind of adhesive, and this boat is made out of a material called Hippolon, I think. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, but it's basically like it's stronger than PVC or vinyl. It's really thick. It may not look like it, but I assure you, this is more like something that you would like white water raft in than what you would think if you said an inflatable boat. So the boat comes with 2 rod holders. There's one and there's one. They work okay, but they're not really stable. So what I did was I bought these the base and these rod holders at Walmart. The brand is Propel or Propel Paddle Gear. I can't remember how much these cost, but they weren't very expensive at all, and it came with the base. So the thing I liked about this is for travel purposes, I can put this plug in, put these in the box, and I don't have to worry about it. When I get where I'm going, I can pop these in, and they work perfectly. It enabled us to kind of have hands-free and fish. One kind of cool thing I did was I had some leftover PVC just in my garage, and so I cut 4 pieces of the same length, and I just cut some notches in here, and then I smoothed them out with a knife. Not a big deal. And then I attached them to the box with these screws here, and then I just drilled some small holes in the back on both sides of the pipe and used some zip ties, and I ran those into the box, tightened them up. They're really secure, and this was a great solution for us because it enabled us to carry our rods while the boat was underway, and to also have a spot for a landing net or whatever else. And so I'll just show you. Here's one of my rods here. They fit perfectly right inside here, and I mean, it was a really easy fix. You can buy like pre-made rod holders at Walmart or Academy, but they're really expensive. And so, I mean, if you got some PVC laying around, I think this is 1.5 inch PVC. That was a super easy project. It took me maybe 10 minutes, and it worked perfectly, served exactly the purpose that I wanted. So I made this, I just called this the battery box, and I put that in the center of the boat, and it worked perfectly. It gave us some storage, and if a third person went with us, they could easily sit on that with a cushion or something, and there'd be enough seating for 3 people. Now, one of the things that that I didn't talk about a minute ago was, you'll notice that I covered this wood with carpet. And I did that for a couple reasons. The obvious one is I was concerned about splinters and things like that getting into the boat. The other reason was I just like the way it looks. It looks like it's supposed to come with the boat. So this carpet is really, really cheap. I got, this is outdoor carpet. I bought this at Home Depot. The roll is like a 10-foot wide roll, and you buy it by the foot. I think it's like $1.50 or maybe $2.50 per foot. So what I would recommend is I ended up having to go back and get more. I think I only bought like 15 feet the first time, and just because you're kind of cutting odd shapes and things like that, I would just buy a little bit more than you need, and you can find some other use for it. But really cheap, makes it look a lot better. And I'll kind of, one of the things that I went back and forth on and looking online was how to attach the carpet to the wood. And so I'll just tell you what I did. On the back side of this, again, I was concerned about the splinters. So this is actually like weed fabric that you put down in a flower bed. And I had a bunch of extra from a project I did outside. And so I just thought, hey, you know what? I'll just use that. I cut it, and I put that down. It just has, just a little added layer to keep, splinters from getting out. What I did is I went around the, well, I guess on the front side, on this side, you could use carpet adhesive, and I have some, and I used a little bit, but honestly, I didn't care enough to do that. So what I did was I just used some really tacky flooring tape, and it's really inexpensive. It's like $5 for a roll, and I just, basically put strips of it all the way down, spaced them out by 6 inches or so, and then I just laid the wood on top of it and rolled over it, and it's done really well. I have no complaints about it. I mean, it might not be, perfect or as good as maybe adhesive. So if that's the route you want to go, then hey, go for it. But for me and the time and effort and stuff like that, I just decided I'm using tape. Once I got that done, I flipped it over, and I went around and I cut this where I could keep the form of the wood. And then I didn't use a ton of staples, but I did use some staples all around the edges just to give me some, solid hold. And then I went back and took a hammer and just tapped on each one of those screws to make sure they were, good and deep down into the wood, so that I didn't, have to worry about a staple puncturing the boat. And this worked perfectly. So that's that. The other thing is, I mentioned I had 2 seats. So I'll just walk over here and I'll show you. So I got a second seat, and I also purchased the pedestal. And then I just cut a piece of plywood. I carpeted that as well, bolted that, the stand to the piece of wood just to give me some stability. And I could have done it to the floor, but what I wanted was something that I could move easily in the boat and when I was traveling. So this allowed me to do that. It swivels around. I mean, that just moved, but you can swivel in it. It works perfect. And basically my goal was to, I didn't want a bunch of stuff all around my feet when I was in the boat, because I was going to have to, try to steer the boat with a trolling motor. And so that's why I built the battery boxes, and so that I could put the main battery in the center of the boat and put the auxiliary battery in the front of the boat, and distribute the weight evenly. And in the back of the boat, I kept a cooler, and I had, tackle box and stuff like that. And it worked absolutely perfect. One other thing I would note is, if you were going to run a trolling motor to a battery, one, check the guide, because you have to use a particular gauge of wire for a certain distance between the battery and the motor. So for me, it was less than 10 feet, so I used 10 gauge wire. The batteries that came with the motor weren't long enough to reach the battery in the middle, so I had to get some. I went to Lowe's and just had them cut me 10 feet of 10 gauge wire, use some connectors and attach those, and then I wrapped the wire in this stuff. You can buy this at Lowe's in a pack. This is 1/2 inch, and it's really cheap, but I just wanted to make sure I had some housing for the wire in case I had any overheating or any odd issue. And ultimately, I'd like to get a quick connect so it's easier to connect this to the battery. But for now, I have to actually manually attach it. But basically, when I put the floor in, I put this wire, and I just tuck it into the underneath in the side of the, down in here, up underneath here, and kind of along the edge of the floor, so I didn't have wires everywhere, and it worked out great. But what I would say is, make sure to remember In here, there's a hole. I can't find it, but there's a hole somewhere that I drilled. Oh, here it is, right there, so that I can run the wire into this hole and get it to the battery, so that I don't have wires running around in the bottom of the boat. So remember that. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of random wires sticking out everywhere. That's pretty much that. I'm going to post some pictures on our blog of everything put together. And again, if you want to see me like a time-lapse video putting everything together so that you can get an idea of how long it takes to put together and what it all looks like, I will certainly do that. Just leave me a comment and let me know, and I'll follow up with a video. All right, so I walked you around. I showed you everything. Showed you the boat, all the modifications that I made. It's a fantastic purchase if you do any kind of fishing at all. Even if you don't do fishing, even if you just want to be out on the water when you're camping, it's an unbelievable boat for the price. It really is. For $230, even if you don't have a motor, even if you just use the paddles, it is an unbelievable boat. If you go to our blog, we did a really extensive review of a campground that we went to recently called Beaver's Bend State Park. It's a great park, but there's a lot of pictures of us fishing and in the boat and stuff, and I'll post some more pictures of that in an article specifically walking through step by step all the things that I did and the boxes that I built and all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in that, check out our website, hobbitandnobbin.com, and find more information. I just kind of wanted to wrap up this video by going through a few pros and cons about the boat. So first, cons, if there are any. Earlier, I mentioned already that it's supposed to be a 4-person boat, but that's really not accurate. It's not really a 4-person boat. It's really more of a 2-man craft. If you have any kind of gear at all, to have more than 4 people, you really just have to use the oars. You can't really have a motor, because if you use a motor, you got to have a battery, and that's going to take up seating and weight. The weight capacity on that boat is far more than you would ever imagine, but it's like 1,400 pounds, I think. That might be off, maybe more like 1,200. Either way, it's a lot. And so just to give you a rundown of what we had. So both my brother and I weigh over 200 pounds. We had 2 batteries. One was probably 60 pounds, the other probably 40 pounds. We had a cooler full of ice and drinks that was probably at least 40 pounds, maybe 50 pounds. We had a couple of tackle boxes. We had rods, life vests. We had all the wood that I just showed you in the boxes and the floor, seats. At one point when we were fishing, I bet we were in water that may have been maybe 3 inches deep. So just to give you an idea, I mean, despite all that weight, we could easily maneuver in like 3 inches of water. And to be honest, I'm still kind of shocked about how well the boat did. Not once did I ever feel like it was unstable. We got up, moved around, stood up, never felt like I was going to fall or anything like that. I guess another con I would say is that the oars that come with it are not really that good at all. I mean, if you're going to do any kind of maneuvering with manual power, I would say go ahead and get your own oars and just invest in that. Beyond that, maybe there could be a few things added to it here or there that would make it better, but for the price and the type of product that you get, the size of the product, and the convenience of being able to, pack it up, take it with you, and not have to have a trailer, it's an unbelievable product, and I would absolutely recommend that you look into it if you're interested at all in having a boat. Um, the the total investment, maybe, instead of looking at it like 230 bucks, um, if you like what I did or want to do something similar, you could probably achieve it for cheaper than what I spent. Um, it might not look as good, but again, like I said in the beginning, I tend to care about how things look, and I wanted the boat to not look like podunk. I wanted it to look like everything came with the boat. So for me, with the motor, batteries, carpet, and just some other accessories, I think probably total cash outlay, conservatively, maybe 600 bucks. For me, it was worth every penny. I haven't taken my sons out in it, but I can only imagine they're going to think it's the greatest thing ever. So overall, Intex Mariner 4, awesome product, well made, haven't had any problems with it. Tremendous product, absolutely recommend it. I'm going to follow this video up with the build of a trailer that I made, which is pretty awesome. But again, if you like the video, please subscribe, check us out on social media, look at our blog, find other projects that we've done. And if you want to see me do anything with the boat in terms of putting it together, showing more pictures or doing a video with everything assembled, post a comment, let me know, and I'll do it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.